You and I are likely spending more, and that through credit cards that are linked to UPI. Hello and welcome to the big story today. We will be discussing how linking your credit card to UPI will impact your spending habits. But before that, let's take you through some key data points. Data released by the Reserve Bank of India for the month of July shows that the usage for credit cards has risen by 19% over the same period last year. And this surge, according to experts, is due to credit cards being linked to UPI. Now, consider this data along with what I just told you. 74% of people surveyed by the Indraprasth Institute of Information Technology in May this year were overspending thanks to UPI. The credit card market is set to hit 200 million cards, and the value of transactions has surged by over 28% over last year. This is the third data set from PricewaterhouseCoopers. Now, put all these sets of data together and a rather grim picture emerges that we are at the risk of overspending using credit cards through UPI unless we become smart spenders. And today we're going to discuss exactly this. And here are the three questions that we are asking today. Is UPI making us spend more? Is UPI linked with credit cards a recipe for a debt trap? And finally, as digital payments technology evolves, do we need to plan how we spend? And to discuss this further, we're now joined by Udayan Adhe, a finance and investing social media profile analyst and statistics, and Amit Kukreja, the founder of AmitKukreja.com. Parijat Garg, he's a personal finance expert. Good evening, all three of you, and thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having us here.
Good evening, Nipur. Thank you so much.
Right, Udayan, to you first. Now, Udayan, obviously spending on credit cards has surged around 19%, and this is on data that's coming in from the RBI. Do you think that UPI linked to credit cards is actually leading us to spend more?
100%. And I think from now, 1st September, that is only going to increase because the reward points that you would have otherwise gotten earlier, they were slightly lower on RuPay credit cards. But now from 1st of September, if it's linked to UPI, it's going to be on par with other networks. So I think that is something that would be concerning because even you shared data points, right? That after UPI was adopted widely, it just became very easy to spend money. Because earlier, if you think about it, if you wanted to spend money, probably go to an ATM, enter a PIN, withdraw money. But now it's literally 4 taps away when you enter your PIN. So 100%, it is something that everyone should be more careful about because access to easy money, we just think that, we can always pay the bill 30 days later, but then you can very easily fall into that trap. So got to be more careful as we move ahead.
All right, Amit, your view on that. Obviously, it is being widely talked about how this growth in the credit card usage is directly linked to the penetration of UPI. And as Udayan was pointing out, it's just simply that the physical aspect of actually going to a bank, withdrawing money, counting those notes, giving it to someone has completely vanished. It's extremely easy to spend money, but it's still money. So, the value doesn't go down at all.
Yeah. See, this is a part of development that we all are going through. The ease of business is created by these online channels of making payments. What is causing this is just the simplicity and the ease with which you are able to do your transactions now. What is complicating it further is the instant gratification factor that you always have with your credit card. The reward networks that are playing such a big role in making your payments through credit card, and the discount and the FOMO created by these discounts or expiration dates of your coupons that you get, right? So it's not a problem to have these and to have this ease of making these payments. What is problematic is your own behavior. So you have to understand, how does your mind work? As a human being, we always go for hedonistic pleasures as opposed to eudaimonic because they give us instant gratification. So it all becomes a game of what is available to you for making payment and how judicious you are becoming with respect to what is available to you for making payments. So if you are getting a lot of other options to make payments, I think the onus is on you to choose the one that serves your purpose, well, while it multiplies the rewards for you. At the same time, it's not a problem on the options which are being made available for us. The problem is, how do we sharpen our judgment to use these lines of credit that are being made available to us and still make a delicate balance of earning the reward points, buying what we need the most, and making a delicate balance of what is part of the budget and what is not part of the budget, and we should not get tempted to make that purchase. It's a subjective discussion, so I'll answer the questions based on what you would like me to answer. I'll pause here.
Right, absolutely. Obviously, personal spending habits and how your mind works does play a very important part in it. Parijat, your views. Now, Parijat, I just wanted to, make a point here. Now, traditionally, people used to, earlier on, use credit cards for large spending. But now that's changed completely. And credit card on UPI is now becoming almost the primary mode of payment. Do you think that this has actually led to average spending on credit cards increased to a huge sum? It's actually ballooned.
So in a way, yes. And I would agree to what Amit just mentioned, that it is all about convenience. And with digital payments broadly, the convenience has really now at our fingertips. And once we are able to use this convenience, it's very difficult to move away from it. And but if you look at macroeconomically, India is still a very underpenetrated market from a credit perspective. We look at the credit cards that have been issued. If you look at last year, the same time, about 8 million credit cards were there. Now we have about 10.5 million credit cards, which is a fairly small number in comparison to the eligible population or the aspiring population that we have in our country. So we still have many miles to go in terms of credit card issuances, many people getting access to that. The issue that we see today is more about same people having multiple credit cards and the behavior that Amit spoke about, how we manage our behavior when we use a credit card. And the numbers today is a telling story that average spending has gone up. Most of the credit card users have spendings anywhere between 20,000 to 30,000 on a monthly basis, which is a significant number. And this number is going up every year. As it becomes more convenient, as it becomes more acceptable, UPI has made it acceptable on places which otherwise were not accepting credit cards earlier. So we should expect more credit card users to come in, more credit card usage to come in. The question still remains is about behavior, about awareness. If people are aware, then it's a boon. If people get to misuse it or tend to misuse it, may not understand the perils behind it, then it can become a bane.
Right, Udaya. Now, obviously, that brings us to the question that if you are addicted to using a credit card and then UPI payments, both of them combined together, there could be many people who are looking at a debt trap. So how does one avoid that? What are the things that you should keep in mind?
So the debt trap that you mentioned, I think, I won't say we are in a debt trap-like situation, but exactly what Parijat said, right? Multiple loans. In fact, as per RBI's financial stability report, more than half of people who have got a retail loan, a personal kind of loan that is unsecured, have 3 such live loans. So that just tells you that, people are potentially perhaps getting one loan to pay off the other, which is, we can spiral towards a debt trap in that situation. But you asked me, what can be done to sort of prevent this? Some slightly offbeat activities or actions, I think, can really help. First up, I think disabling notifications from all the shopping apps that we have installed on our phones, because the number of notifications they send you through a day of how many discounts are available that day, when the discount is expiring, that just pushes you to potentially want to spend more. And you think that spending is going to make you feel better. It does for a few minutes, for a day, 2 days, a week. But after that, you're looking for that next high. So I think, stop, disable notifications from shopping apps and even social media, right? Because when we look at people going for vacations, people buying different things, whether it's a car, whether it's a new designer jacket or watches, it can put us in the situation where we feel people are doing very well, whereas we aren't doing as well. And that's why, to show the world that we are doing well, we may want to buy more things. So potentially a deeper kind of, I think, mindset to also reduce social media usage, because and to also know that not everyone has their life figured out. Even if they're going for a vacation to Switzerland, they still have problems, and that just going there won't get rid of you of that problem that you're facing. So I think, obviously there are financial habits that you can inculcate. So, obviously don't uh, always pay the total amount due, not the minimum amount due, which is something that a lot of people don't realize when they're using a credit card. But I think those are very widely discussed. I think the behavioral aspects are more important because they're intrinsic to how we would use all these technologies as they become even more convenient as the days go along.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to come to, how you pay your credit card bills in a bit. But I want to come back to Amit. Now, Amit, you spoke a lot about, spending behavior. According to you, if I have linked my UPI to my credit card, or I'm using my credit card for almost every transaction, what is it that I need to keep in mind? Where is it that my brain should tell me, now you've crossed the limit, you've got to hold yourself back?
Very simple. As a personal finance expert, I always say have a budget, right? Have a budget and track your money, track your expenditure or your expense every month. So make it a habit of checking your credit card statement every Sunday evening, while you're relaxing and getting ready for the next week. How much did I spend this week? And is it within my budget? And it doesn't have to be exactly the same expense every week, but you can more or less figure out that these are the expenses which were already part of my budget and they have been taken care of. What you have to watch out for is the impulsive purchases that you might have done in the week. So question yourself, all these things come with an empowered mind. So question yourself, why did I do this impulsive shopping? What was so important? Why could I not defer this purchase? And if you're finding it really hard to defer your purchase, and you have to go back to your vision board or your financial goal plan, where what is planned for you 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line. And if you keep your focus on funding that goal or investing for that goal, naturally your temptation to do this spontaneous purchase or impulsive purchase will go away. So the more your mind is active with respect to, I'm happy with buying this now, or I'm happy with not buying this now because I'll be happy with buying this in future through this goal. So it's all about managing your mind. It's also about managing your budget, and also making sure that you're not falling into the temptational shopping or impulsive shopping, which could be very, very tempting to do that. So a simple equation of how do you prioritize your budget items and how do you prioritize your financial goals?
Right, Parijat, now most people, of course, who purchase using credit cards usually get lured by lucrative offers like, no cost EMI, low cost EMI. And this leads to a lot of impulse buying. How does one deal with this impulse buying? How do you tell yourself that this is unimportant and I've got to stop?
Right. So I think just to corroborate your point, July typically sees a large sale from a large e-commerce platform. And that's when we see credit card transactions and the values typically going up, which is what the RBI data also corroborates, right? And it is very likely, as I think both the panelists have mentioned, that once you start seeing these promotional campaigns, you see the ads, it's very likely for everyone to really budge into those promotions and pick up something which is not necessarily yours. So one thing is that you differentiate between needs versus wants. If your needs are clear to you and you can separate them out from wants, you can cut down on some of the spends. That's point number one. Point number two is that you can also look at what is your credit limit on your cards and put a threshold that you do not want to spend in any particular month beyond that limit. And that's a limit which you can either set it up on your credit card platform. Most banks today have a limit setting mechanism where you can set a sublimit for e-commerce transactions, for any other domestic and international transactions, so that you can put control over your purchase behavior. So those can also make this convenient product slightly inconvenient to you, but it can also help you question your impulsive purchases. It will force you to get that extra window of time before you can just jump into and make that transaction. So that's the second thing that I would definitely recommend people who have this impulsive behavior and who tend to spend more than what they think about. And the third one is maybe involve someone around you in any purchase decision. Because when you have someone involved in the decision making who's beyond you, then those kind of impulses can also be questioned, can be more rational, and they can help you in differentiating between needs and wants.
All right, so those are good strategies, Uday. And now we have various data points to go by, and they all seem to suggest that credit card spending is skyrocketing. But along with that, what's also skyrocketing is defaults. Now, how do you make sure that you stay away from these defaults? Because essentially, that's what leads you into a troublesome situation.
Absolutely. The RBI has also noticed this, that unsecured personal loans were rising. They took some measures late last year, and we have seen the positive impact of that now. The growth of unsecured loans has kind of slowed down. I won't say it has gone down significantly, but the RBI took some measures. We are seeing some results on it. But I think from a very personal level, credit cards are like nuclear energy, because you can really maximize credit reward points if you're strategic, if you're careful with usage. But at the same time, like you get nuclear energy, you can also get atomic bombs. So your finances can go for a complete toss if you don't follow the right practices. One thing that I've noticed that is very rampant across many people is that a lot of people who are getting credit cards for the first time, they're not able to exactly understand how to read the credit card statement. Because when you get your credit card statement, you see a couple of numbers. One of them is the minimum amount due, and one is the total outstanding amount. Now, for a lot of people, the minimum amount due is what they believe is the amount they have to pay for that particular month, for that particular cycle. And as we know, it's not the minimum amount due that you have to pay, it's the total outstanding amount. Because if you pay the minimum amount due, then for the rest of the money that you haven't paid, you'd be charged an exorbitantly high interest rate. It could be 35, 40, 50% in many cases per year. And then you get into that debt trap where you don't know how to pay that. So you borrow more, and then you again take on one more loan. So first up, always pay the total amount due. And while credit cards can give you a lot of offers and rewards, which I love to maximize myself, but never ever spend more money than what you have. So, for all practical purposes, don't think of the credit card as a amount that you can pay later, because that's just a recipe for disaster. Because for whatever reason, right, you lose your job, you fall ill, there's some other emergency in your life, and you need money for that other event, then the credit card debt starts piling up. So, always try to just live within your means. That's the good old financial advice that has been passed on from ages. And I think even with something like this, where technology is making it more easier to spend more money, I think just live within your means. I think that's as simple as it sounds. I know it's very hard to execute, but I think that's where you have to master your mind.
Right, a quick follow-up question. Then you just mentioned that, you can actually make your credit card work for you. You can actually benefit a lot from it. Tell us some more about that. And then Parijat as well as Amit, we'd like to hear about that as well from you both.
So credit cards are now linked to UPI, right? So imagine every time before this you spent on UPI, the only reward that you got was maybe that scratch card that gave you 1 rupee or maybe 10% discount on something you would never ever consume. Now what has happened when you link your credit card to UPI is that for every transaction you can essentially get a 2% discount, which is the most basic way to use the credit card reward. So you're spending, let's say, 1 lakh rupees in 1 month and you're paying via UPI, you get say 2% as a reward. So 2,000 rupees, essentially you get a discount on every spend that you've made. That's the most basic way to go about it. But if you really execute credit card reward point stacking up, then you can get this discount to be as high as 8, 10, 15%. because then you get points. You can convert those points into air miles, into loyalty programs for hotels, and you can essentially, as I said, right, on a spending of 1 lakh, potentially get benefits worth 10, 15,000. You can get 2 nights at a luxury hotel, which are worth 15,000. And basically, you don't have to pay that money out of pocket because the credit card reward points pay that. That's wonderful. That's why people get lured to use credit cards more and more. But again, spend within your means. If you don't have that money, do not swipe that card.
Right. Amit, Udayan was referring to it, while the average interest rate on most credit cards is between 3.6 to 4%, but that's only if you make the full payment. Otherwise, instead, if you opt to pay for the minimum amount, things can head south very, very quickly, not in a good manner. What is your advice to people on how to keep their finances stay on target and not let them go awry?
So very, very simple. So first of all, I think you should call out loudly 3.6% per month, 36 to 42% per year. So I think the most important thing that people have to understand it, credit card is a loan. It's a loan at a very high rate of interest. The rate of interest varies from 35% to 45%. That's a bomb, right? So if you do not pay your credit card bill in full before the due date, you are likely to earn that interest cost on your head, which is going to stress you out later. So use this line of credit judiciously. This is a line of credit, which means it makes it easy for you to buy stuff when you need it the most. But at the same time, you should keep in mind that your payback capacity should be there. So if you have to buy something for 20,000 rupees, you have the balance in your savings account, and you know that you have the credit available on your credit card. So you can use your credit card just to earn the reward points, as Udayan was talking, and make sure that the money that you have is immediately set aside to make this credit card bill payment before the due date. So I think understanding the loan aspect of a credit card, it's not free money. Second, understanding what's the limit within which you have to use this card. Pranjal was talking about the limits that you can set. I'm personally not a big user of a credit card, but I know a lot of people who have a credit card for travel and hotels, who have another credit card for grocery, who have another credit card for other shopping, right? So they earn reward points, but they manage it judiciously. They make sure the payments are all done in time. So if you can maintain that judgment of timely payments, with the information that this is a loan and it's a deadly loan, making sure that you are committing to yourself that you will never carry this loan beyond the due date and make the payment in time. I think that those 2-3 things should be able to make you a very seasoned spender using this line of credit that's available to you.
Absolutely. Parijat, your thoughts on that? Apart from the fact, of course, that you should be clearing your dues in full, it's still a hefty amount that you pay actually in terms of interest. And the other part of it, I know of several people who book all their airline tickets using, points that they get out of credit cards. So they're actually making this work for them.
Absolutely. And I think, as Udyan said, there are enough people who can very smartly use credit cards, and especially people who travel a lot, who stay in hotels. Credit card benefits can be maximized in these locations. But as we have been discussing, it's a very challenging financial product. It is convenient to use, but it is difficult to manage. And it requires some practice, some skills to understand exactly how to repay, how to manage your finances, how to balance your spends. And to do that, one recommendation is specifically for people who start early. Do not get lured and have multiple credit cards. Start with one, because then you can learn the skills working with one credit card. Once you have used that for 2-3 years, you are comfortable with that, then you move to have multiple credit cards, like Amit was suggesting some people do. The other aspect is that in case you still run into problems where you may have planned everything to the T, but you are not able to pay the total amount due at the end of the month. Now, there are companies or banks which actually offer you conversion of your credit card bills into EMIs. So if you're not able to pay anything, it is better to speak to your banker and convert that credit card outstanding into EMIs so that your interest rate that is applicable is not 36 to 48%, but it actually can come down to 16 to 20%, which is much better than having to pay 36 to 40% per annum and going into that debt trap. So knowing these options in case you are running into trouble is also a very wise decision rather than just hiding behind the screen.
Right, absolutely. So that's actually a great suggestion. Any last words, Amit, on how first-time users of credit cards should be using it? Because there are going to be a lot of people, coming in from tier 2, tier 3 cities who are actually going to get access to their first credit cards as India grows economically.
As I was saying earlier, I might be repeating myself. Just be a conscious spender.
Okay.
And just understand it's a loan at a very, very big rate of interest. So if you have that fact in your head, you know that you can borrow money at a cheaper rate vis-a-vis credit card. And as long as you have the capacity to pay it back in time, which should be your mission because it's a borrowed money, I think you will become you will have built up a good judgment how to use the credit card.
Right. Any last thoughts? So then good judgment, one of them, of course.
So I had read this somewhere and I can't remember where, but it was the most beautiful line regarding credit cards. And it went something like, the people who actually should use a credit card are the ones who don't need to use a credit card, because you anyway have the money to, make that purchase in full. So I think, that just sums it up.
Absolutely.
If you have the money, go spend, otherwise don't use one.
All right, so be smart, be judicious, and make it work for you, all three of you. Thank you very much for taking out the time to join us on The Big Story this evening. Well, with that, it is a wrap on The Big Story. We are hoping that all this advice that's come your way will help you spend smarter.